What is up, everybody, and welcome to another video. In today's video, I actually wanted to talk about something kind of interesting that may or may not interest the majority of you, but I think it'll be kind of cool to talk about anyways. So you've obviously seen my DJ stuff in the backgrounds of some of my videos. I've used it as a backdrop for B-roll before. Brandon has shot a bunch of shots of my knives on my DJ equipment. I've done DJ streams on Twitch now, which if you want to follow me on Twitch, it's twitch.com/the Hirsch. I DJ stream on there every once in a while, but I wanted to talk today about how I do DJing, how it's different than it was before, and why that's sort of interesting. So, strap in. So, this is not the way that I've always DJ'd. This is a normal DJ setup. As a matter of fact, this is one of the better DJ setups that you can actually get. This is called a Pioneer XDJ XZ, and it is a really, really fantastic piece of equipment. And I'll explain why it's important in just a moment, but all you need to know right now is that this is a pretty basic setup in the sense of there are two turntables and a mixer in the middle. And it looks really complicated because there's a bunch of buttons, but I'm not going to explain all of that to you. I'm just going to explain to you the basics here. There are two decks and a mixer in the middle, and so I can play two songs at the same time and mix in between those two songs. And that's kind of like the basic way that DJing works, is that you have multiple songs and you need to transition from one to the other. Now, when I first learned to DJ, I learned on a two-deck setup. It was not nearly as nice as this one is. This is a very nice setup, but when I first learned, I just learned on a basic controller. I think it was a Newmark Mixtrack Pro, not even the Mixtrack Pro 2, but just the original Mixtrack Pro. Relatively cheap DJ controller. It plugs into your laptop and all that jazz, which is super cool. Well, after doing that, I started to get some gigs and I started to perform live for people, and I really enjoyed it, but I found the two-deck setup kind of limiting. And the main reason behind that is, truthfully, I am a little bit more than just a music, I'm a little bit more than a DJ. I did also produce music at the time. I did a lot of my own music production in a program called Ableton Live, which is a very, very cool program that allows you to both create music from scratch, but also perform music live. So it does a really cool job of sort of doing double duty of allowing you to perform and being a spot to create music in the first place. So I evolved from a two-deck setup into wanting more freedom than the two-deck setup could sort of offer me. And so I moved into what you see over here, which is this super complicated-looking setup that was for Ableton Live. And what was really crazy about this is it looks, I don't know if it looks more intimidating than this, but to any DJ, this looks relatively standard, whereas this looks insane. This looks crazy. What in the world is going on over here? I had my laptop on top of this case, and that would be running Ableton Live, and then I have three main components here, which is my launch pad, a Novation Launch Control XL, and then this little MIDI fighter twister. The way that this setup worked is that I would basically create all of my sets inside of Ableton Live. And doing that was great, but also difficult, because the thing about DJing is that you need to know how the crowd will respond to songs that you play. So the whole point of being a DJ is to play music for people and, have them enjoy it and dance the whole time. And if you start to lose the crowd, you need to know how you can shift the genre that you're playing or change up the music that you've got in a way that will be pleasing for people to enjoy. And that's something that you can do on the fly with a two-deck setup. So, if people don't like the music I'm currently playing, well, I can switch it to a different genre or something very easily with my 2-deck setup. With the Ableton Live setup, that is not the case. Instead, you're kind of locked in because the way that it works is you have a lot more freedom in the moment, which means that, with all of these buttons, I can play a whole, mashup basically from scratch live. Like, I can play out a whole song almost completely live utilizing this equipment. But that also means that the actual show itself from start to finish has more of a set list. It's more like the way a band would play something where they go from this song to this song to this song to this song. And they know preemptively what songs they're going to play in what order. And that order doesn't really change because the nature of the show sort of revolves around the order of playing it. That's how this worked. And so, to make that actually work, I had to start on the 2-deck setup and learn what people like. I had to learn, how to build a set that people would actually enjoy from start to finish. So I'm really glad I started on the 2-deck setup. But then when I evolved to here, I used a lot of the knowledge that I had gained on the 2 decks to then create this massive artistic thing where I'm essentially, each one of these pieces had its own function. The launch pad is for playing different clips. So it would light up with a bunch of different colors, and I would press buttons on here to launch specific things at specific times, and that would allow me to play upwards of 8 songs at the same time. So sometimes I literally would have to do something where I press 4 or 5 to 8 buttons and launch a bunch of things at the same time and have a bunch of different music playing at the same time. So I've got a build up, a drop, some effects, all of these different things happening simultaneously, a vocal, all that. And that allowed me to produce and play really fun music that people enjoyed. I do a lot of pop mashups where I'll take really popular songs and then mash them up with electronic songs and, do it in ways that you haven't really heard before. So you would play the different songs on here. This launch control would then allow me to adjust certain effects. So I had all of these different faders doing different things. And what's interesting is that even though I had basically an infinite number of songs that I could play at the same time, I had them filtered down to 2 channels. And so what that means, for those of you that aren't audio people, it means that basically on this, there are 2 channels right now. If we ignore 3 and 4, then you just have 1 and 2. And the way that would work is that if I play something on channel 1, then it comes through on channel 2. All right, so I've got channel 2, and if I play something on channel 1, it comes through on channel 1. So each one of these songs, I can control on channel 1 or 2. And so it's 1 deck here, 1 deck there, 2 channels. Over here, I had a similar thing where even if I'm playing 8 different songs, they're all filtered in to either channel 1 or channel 2. And this is really helpful when you're dealing with both mixing the songs, so actually turning them up and down, but also when you're doing effects. So my MIDI Fighter Twister over here, which is this cool thing with a bunch of cool knobs, it was broken up into different categories. And it's actually kind of similar to the way that this deck now works. These 3 knobs were the equalizers. So you can see on this, it has an equalizer high, mid, low. So I had high, mid, low. So these would control the EQ. Down here was the actual speed of the track. So I could adjust the speed of everything with these 2 white knobs. And then on the left and right are the effects. And I had different effects loaded to each one of these knobs. And the reason that it's blue and orange is that that's how I differentiated between deck 1 and deck 2. Deck 1 was orange, deck 2 was blue. And I would just and that's how I knew. So this side is deck 1, this side is deck 2. That's easy for me to memorize and do. And so I did a lot of that, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a really, really cool way to play music. But the problem is that it's not very portable, and it's not very reliable. Okay, so 2 problems. The main one is that if I wanted to go somewhere to play, if I wanted to go to a club, they would have to have space for all of my bullshit. All right? Nobody wants to have to deal with that, so that wasn't very popular of an option. So I would have to, figure out something else. The other problem is that, as I said, it wasn't very reliable. And so I had Ableton Live crash on me multiple times while I was playing at various sets and stuff like that. And that really sucks when you're playing to a huge crowd of people and then all of a sudden the music just fully cuts off and the only thing you can do is like reboot your computer. That's insane. That really sucks because it's going to be silent for like at least a couple minutes, which means that you're like hard stopping all of the energy in the room and the audience is getting bored. And yeah, that's no fun. Yeah, that happened one final time. And I was like, okay, I think I'm done with Ableton Live. Like, I really like what I've got performance-wise here, and I like what I'm doing, but I cannot work with this unreliable thing. Like, this is just not good professionally. So then I had to figure out, how do I convert all of the creative stuff I was doing here to something like this, which is a more standardized setup? And the answer to that was to basically take all of the mashups that I was creating and performing live here, and instead of having a library, at first I just downloaded a bunch of songs that I liked and I started building out a library, and then I realized that I actually didn't like DJing that way because it just didn't vibe with me. I wanted it to be the same level of creativity I was doing over here. And so what I started doing is I replaced my library with only music that I have created. So my library now consists of like almost 200 different mashups that I've created, and I'm always adding more. And so now I've taken the mashups that I was playing over here, that I was like doing the mashup live, and now I'm just playing the mashup over here, but I'm still editing it and doing effects and like changing stuff live as it's going on. But it's not the same level of effort. But to be fair, the crowd does not care. Like, the thing I had to kind of come to the realization is the crowd doesn't care whether or not I'm doing the mashup completely live. What the crowd cares about is, does it sound good and is it fun? That's all the crowd really cares about. And so I needed to make sure that I was giving people a good time that was, that sounded good and was fun to experience. And this was a much easier way to do that than this really complicated one. And the other thing is that this was a much more reliable way to do that. So that's pretty cool. The other thing, too, is that obviously this, in fact, kind of seems less portable than this. This packs away into its own little case. This is like a massive thing. So how do I get this to the club? Well, that's the funny part, everybody. If you're a DJ, you already know the answer. But to those of you that don't, this is Pioneer's DJ equipment. Okay? Pioneer's DJ equipment is standardized, which means that this thing here is basically what's called a CDJ. So Pioneer has these things called CDJs. This is one CDJ, okay? This is a second CDJ, and then this in the middle is a mixer. And these are standardized equipment. So when I go to a club, it'll look almost exactly like this with 2 CDJs and a mixer, or 4 CDJs and a mixer. And if I wanted to, I could actually buy CDJs and add them to this, so I could have 4 CDJs and this mixer, and that's why it has 4 channels like that. So that's pretty cool. I could actually like have a fully functioning setup at home that matches what they're going to have in the club. But how do I get my music there? Well, that's where this comes in. This is a little, This is a little USB drive. You have 2 slots on this thing to put USB drives in. The way that Pioneer DJ equipment works is that you can build up a full library of stuff on your USB drive and then play it on any equipment that supports that USB drive. So if you made it inside of a software called Rekordbox, then you will be able to play your music on the deck, which is super cool and really useful. So that's the way that this operates, is that I can practice on this guy and like learn about all the different features, all like the filters, how the filter works, how the various effects work. Like I can learn about all that kind of stuff, which is very important. So there's a lot of fun stuff on here, but I can learn what every button does and how to operate it and how to do everything. And then the only thing I need to bring with me to the club after I eject it is this cute little flash drive. That does have a bottom half to it. Oh yeah, here it is. Look at how cute this flash drive is. Look at that. Aren't I a professional? Yeah, that's a cute ass flash drive. I literally just bring my flash drive, plug it into their equipment, and then watch it go. It says USB 1 reading. I click on USB 1, bam. There's my whole thing. And I have all my different mashups and stuff, so I can just go ahead and load something like the Naruto theme song, which I'm working on a small album of Naruto theme song remixes. Do you like Naruto? Everybody likes Naruto, come on. So, yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with this. And it lets me be a little more active in choosing where I go. The biggest problem with this setup, as I said before, is that the set was kind of predetermined. I can actually play each song, completely live when I'm playing it, but I have to decide what songs I'm gonna be playing live ahead of time. Whereas here, I'm not playing each song live, but I am deciding what song I'm going to play live. So I can switch up and freestyle and play whatever I want, whenever I want with this setup. And as we discussed, I can bring just a flash drive to the club and, do whatever I want on their equipment because I already know how the equipment works, and it works with my library, and the only thing I have to arrive with is a flash drive. Most professional DJs have like 5 or 6 flash drives that they bring basically everywhere, and you want 5 or 6 because if you don't hold down this USB stop button and wait until that light stops flashing and you pull out your flash drive, you will actually fully corrupt the drive and it'll be like useless to you, which really sucks. But at the same time, if you're careful, that won't happen. But yeah, that's why usually DJs have like 5 or 6 flash drives on them, is because you're probably going to corrupt a couple of them on a regular basis. Or you'll like plug it in and it's just not working that day. That's always fun when that happens, but either way. So yeah, that is an overview of my DJ setup. I want to know if you guys have any questions about that kind of stuff in general, or if this interested you at all, or if this was boring, let me know in the comments. But I thought I'd just give you a little bit of an overview as to like where I was. I learned on something like this, but a much smaller version, and then I moved on and did crazier stuff on this, and then I was like, oh, I learned so much here, now I can re-implement that on this and like go even more places now. So it's been a really cool experience, sort of like going from one to the other. Also, I wanted to say my actual DJing setup for streaming is really cool. So on my PC over there, I have a music visualizer program and like all that stuff that runs together with everything. And that's synchronized to this phone. So I have a phone here that's my streaming camera, and there's a fisheye lens on the phone itself, and that's like clamped together to the desk. And so that allows me to have this really cool fisheye view right in front of me, like at the DJ booth. So you can see what my hands are doing. You can even kind of see the screen a little bit. It's super distorted, but you can still see it, and it gives it a really cool vibe. And then the other fun part is that I have this DJ deck set up on a custom table. So this is a cheap electric standing desk I got from Amazon, and you can see it'll actually raise up. Oops, sorry, excuse me. It raises up now. And this is just a cheap standing desk I got from Amazon that I then cut to size because it was slightly too large. I got the smallest one I could, and I needed it to be even smaller for the DJ deck because I only wanted it to fit the DJ deck. And so I cut it to size, and this thing has been the best because it allows me to like fully adjust how high my DJ equipment is, and it'll even go like hilariously high, which I do not need. Like, see if it goes all the way up here. Yep. Oh, it's a little bit angry at me, but yeah, look, it goes all the way up to this height for some reason, and then I can send it back down. Oh, a thing disconnected. Wow. Whoops. Stick back on there. My wiring disconnected. Anyways, yeah, so that's my DJ setup. The phone is connected through USB-C back to my computer, and then it just uses an Android app that allows me to connect my phone through OBS, which is really cool. And then I can just stream very easily, which has made it a lot easier for me to start doing DJ streams. Before, it was much more of a process where I had to sort of like take out a table and pull out my DJ stuff. And now I can just walk up to this, start OBS, and do it. The other thing that's really cool here, too, is I didn't really bring this up, but this is a controller setup. There's a computer involved, and these things are controlling software on the computer. This is what's known as a standalone setup. The only thing it needs is that USB. It already has a computer inside of it, and so it does all of its own processing inside of this unit. So I don't need a computer setup over here, which means that I'm much more free to do whatever I want and have, more fun with it. And it's just much more freeing to be able to like walk over here and plug in my USB and then start practicing instead of having to pull out my computer and start up the software and, either plug in my USB or not, because sometimes the software has its own internal stuff. And so like it's just a whole ordeal compared to this thing is ready to go whenever I want to use it, and it perfectly matches the actual stuff that I would be using in a real club. So yeah, I absolutely love this guy. This is my baby. And yeah, also speaking of my baby, I got the Penny Tsunami today. Love my Tsunami. If you watched this far in the video, thank you very much. Let me know if you have any questions about my DJ equipment. Sorry, my camera just made a beep and I was confused by it. But yeah, if you're still around, let me know what your daily carry today is if you don't have DJ questions. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for the moment. So now if you'll excuse me, I'll see you later. Peace.